what do you think I mean by teaching outside the box?
Outside the classroom.
Okay, outside the classroom, yes, very good. Yeah, but what about outside the school in general? I mean, we're a lot farther outside of the classroom than just outside in the another part of the school. But sometimes you could take your students outside of the classroom, but here it's like we're totally separated from everything. And
Okay.
so we have to learn how to teach differently compared to what we were doing before. So moving on from there, I'm just going to show you really quickly. I don't know if you know Pixton EDU. Have you heard of that? Pixton EDU? The little icon on the top. Have you used that before? It's basically you can make your own comics, and your students can also make their own comics inside of there. They can record their own voices. They can write text, and it's a very interactive way for them to develop concepts or do projects that are pretty engaging for them at a lot of different levels. So this is just a simple one that I made, and I used an audio recorder that generates voices online. So just so you see it, and here.
One day, we were all just teaching our classes the way we had always done when COVID-19 happened. Then, we were all alone trying to make ends meet. Since then, we have been stuck at home teaching online. I wonder how our students are dealing with these changes.
I don't know how to use my time or study on my own. I feel lost and have trouble focusing. Who can help me with my schoolwork?
I'm working, honey.
I'm working also.
My parents are always busy working and taking care of the things around the house.
How can
We make
This work?
My education depends on it.
Okay, so that's just like a short sample of what you can do in that platform, Pixton EDU, and you actually have to create your own avatar and the students too. So when you get your students into that platform, it takes a screenshot, like a class photo with you and your students as avatars. It's kind of interesting. Now, how do you feel at this moment? Maybe at the beginning of in March you felt differently, but if you had to choose one of these pictures, which one would it be to identify you?
I think that at the beginning of the school year, I mean April, when all this COVID stuff started, I felt like the woman, okay, like this. But now I think that I feel a little bit more relaxed.
Excellent. Okay, that's how I think that most teachers are feeling now. They've gone from the woman to the man. Not to say that men are more relaxed than women. It's just that's most teachers I found. There's nothing to do with the man or woman thing. Okay, so this is how we feel, but then we also have to consider how the parents feel. And so they're at home full time with their kids, and they're trying to keep the kids going and educate them as best they can. I'm a teacher, my wife's a teacher, and we have two little boys. And so this is how we feel too, because we're trying to teach classes. We took our kids out of school, so we're trying to educate them at the same time. So it's been crazy. It's been really crazy. So we've had to reinvent how we do things. So those are kind of today's challenges. Now, if we move forward, I just wanted to ask you to do a quick poll, and I'm going to give you 2 minutes to do that. All you have to do, if you have a cell phone, or if you don't have a cell phone, you can write the link that's at the top, pollev.com/Casey Crandon 761 on your computer, on a browser, and then you will be able to answer this question. It's going to show up your answer here, but it's going to be anonymous, so you can say what you want. So now what I'm going to show you is when I did my session in July throughout Latin America, I did a webinar, if you didn't know, that 250 teachers and administrators were polled in that survey, and this is what they said. Knowing what digital tools can be best to help them achieve the teaching and assessing goals. That was a big thing for them. And as you can see, monitoring and motivating your students is also very important, 18%. And also the lack of support the parents give in the beginning was very difficult. And in the afternoon session, it was a little bit different. show you. Hold on. This is the afternoon session that we did, and they said exactly what you said. It was monitoring and motivating your students. So if we take those two ideas, we know that the most important thing that we can do is know what tools exist and how to use them to motivate and monitor our students. And so I'm going to try to share with you today some extra tools that you may not have used before and tips. But first, I wanted to touch base on project-based learning. Do you guys do project-based learning in your school? No?
No, we don't.
Okay, and is there a reason why you don't do it, or is there, it's just from a choice?
Well, in my case, I think I need to cover our curriculum, and it takes time.
Okay.
To prepare this kind of tools. I mean,
yeah,
it's worth it to be done, but it's difficult. I use escape rooms and
okay, this is great. Yeah.
So they take time, but the kids love them. So they wait for them at the end of the unit because they know that they are going to participate in that kind of activities.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm just going to show you I'm just going to go through it pretty quick, the structure of project-based learning instead of the traditional form of education or learning. And this is Michael Fullen. I don't know if you know who he is. He's a director of deep learning. And I'll explain a little bit what deep learning is in the end of the presentation. But he says, like, just because we're stuck with their policies doesn't mean we have to be stuck with their mindset. So I mean, I think teachers in general, even if there's policies of curriculum or things like that, obviously you have to meet your needs, but there's always a different path that we could take to get those needs done. And he also created the 6 C's of the 21st century. So here, how many hours of classes are students doing a week in your school?
In this method, like online work?
Online, yeah.
We have between 1 hour with preschool, and we have 3 hours with elementary, with elementary school.
And high school too.
High school too. So you'd start with 1 hour in primary, and then you go up from there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And they have, that's just for English, but then there's also other subjects that they have classes with, right?
Yes.
Okay,
exactly.
All right. So let's go to the next one. How many students on average are in each lesson that you teach digitally?
Ooh, I have between 12 and 17. That's my
17.
Yeah, between 12 and 17, probably.
Some classes have more students too, like 25.
And pre-primary and primary?
Yes, in first grade.
Yeah.
I have like 26, 25.
26?
Yes. Yes.
Wow. And how does that work?
Sometimes it's difficult, but generally now they are used, so they keep their microphone off and all of that.
Okay, very good. All right, next question. Have classes been successful? And how do you know?
Well, that's hard to answer.
That is hard.
Like I told you before, it is so hard when you don't get the feedback in the same class from your students. And you, like, there's the policy is not to give the students that much homework, you know. So we try to complete all activities in the classroom. See, in the same lesson, right? So it's very difficult when you don't get the feedback from your students, when you only talk to letters in your screen. That has been hard.
Because you don't even know if they're there, really, like, or if they're doing something else, sleeping, eating breakfast. I don't know. Very good. Okay, moving on. Let's see. So this is just a kind of a theory or an idea that I developed based on talking to many, many schools here in Chile. And I figure just an average, I mean, there's maybe less in some subjects than others, but if you think 1 or 2 classes or 3 classes at the max a week, and plus homework, if they give homework, objectives that have to be completed, evaluations that have to be done so you can actually assess how they're learning and how they're advancing. It seems to be a lot of context or a lot of content, and not to mention other subjects that exist. So online attention span also plays a big role there. And if we don't have that in mind, we're basically setting them up to not really advance where they could advance. So why I talk about project-based learning is because you could make a blended format of project-based learning where you can actually encompass different subject matter connected to other topics. So if we wanted to do, for example, a science project, but with an element of English in that homework, you're working together in one area. That could be one project, but it could be evaluated by a teacher from science and a teacher from English. So you're basically saving time, and you are making a lot more streamlined the curriculum that the students would have to actually go through to obviously achieve the same goals, but in a more fluid way instead of having homework for separate subjects like islands. Because with islands, we have more separation between the objectives and projects that the kids have to do. So if we move on just a little bit from there, how do we do this? How do you develop a plan that works online and offline? So as you said, Robert? No, Daniel? You said that you try to do all the lessons online. And so basically you're not giving homework. Okay, that's not a problem, but how do you achieve the curriculum objectives if you only have such a short amount of time and with so many students in the classroom? This is the big challenge of this digital format. And so establishing structures is very important. So if we have our course objectives, the things we have to achieve, and if we develop projects or have a final outcome of how we can take these course objectives and put them into, okay, this project would achieve this objective, and this objective. If we do it right, if we plan very well, we could achieve more objectives through projects than we could with just doing one focus. And also class distribution comes into play. It's very, very important that we divide the classes into segments. And these segments, they all have the same course objectives, but they're moving towards the final product of this merger of subject matter. It's very important in that format to have a task-based outline. So the students know from the beginning what objectives we have to achieve in the final product that we're going to produce, or we're going to create or present. So obviously a teacher in this format of digital project-based learning would be a guide, someone who facilitates the form of work. So obviously referencing the task-based or the task outline to the students through their groups, and then the peers inside of those groups will also share information between them. In the older children, they'll have a lot more options of peer alignment, but in the like pre-primary and primary, it's a little bit more challenging. You'd have to be more of a guide as a teacher than the peers trying to tell each other what they have to do. And obviously you get to the final product and the teacher gives reflection or revision of the results. And also the peers in certain levels can give reflection. And this adds to the richness of the actual activity. And this is a format that would work for establishing online and offline work, because if they have the tasks that they have to achieve, they know what they can do outside of the classroom. So far, so good? Or am I speaking too fast?
Okay.
Good? Okay. Next, obviously sharing is important. The next thing that's really important, when you're doing digital online learning, it's not as easy to evaluate which students are better in each area. We don't have as much time to do that. And we can't see them physically as much and see the way they act. And so basically, when we develop a course outline or a task-based outline, it's very important to have a flexible or a variety of tasks that will achieve the same goal. So if one student starts here, the main point, and they choose to go the easy route that's actually more comfortable for them, maybe if you give them a variety of tasks, maybe instead of making a poster, one student that's really enthusiastic of presenting, maybe they can present the idea. And if someone's not as and they're maybe a little bit more shy, they could go down the other route and make a poster about the same thing, but in a different format. And you have a variety of tasks to achieve the same outcome in general, the same objectives, which makes it a lot more flexible and gives you the similar results, but on different student levels. Do you understand? If you have any questions or if I'm speaking too fast, just stop me. I sometimes just start talking too fast. Okay.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
Perfect. So moving forward. So we have to keep it real. This is my most important point, is obviously when you make a task for a pre-primary student, a primary student, a secondary student, or even a university student, if you're not keeping it real or realistic to reality, and it's not going to be a meaningful project, there's no reason to do it. So what I usually had in the university, when I used to teach in the university and in schools, was that the students would say, okay, why are we doing this, teacher? Oh, what's the point? It's just for a grade. And so most of the time we fall into that area of, we're doing it because you get a grade for it, but that's not the reason we should be doing things. So obviously we need to have an audience. We need to have a reason, or who will see this project or this objective that we're gonna try to achieve. And if someone's going to hear about it, it's also very, very important. So for example, in pre-primary and primary, if we're doing a project for my grandparents or my parents, obviously the students are a little bit more motivated to produce things and do things because they're kind of showing off in a way. And so who will interact with it if they're building or making something? Who's going to actually use it? So keeping it real is very, very important for authentic assessment. And obviously, if we're going to follow that same line, we have to make it accessible. So this is my accessibility tree. So obviously in the digital age, we have to take advantage of this system of digital components that we can actually produce and share. So if we're making something that you can listen to, who will hear it and how will they hear it? If we're making visuals, we have to know how we're going to be able to see it. If we're writing something, we have to know how will someone read it or where they will read it. And the internet connects all of these things, and we all know that. Obviously, parents are very worried about the protection of the content that their kids show or make or produce and how they share it. So there are restrictions there that has to be policies that make it safe for the kids. And we could do one of three things. Personal sharing directly with the parents of the kids or the children, or we could publish things. If we're doing written work, you could actually publish it somewhere so the children or the students will actually feel like they achieved something. It's not just for a grade. It's like, wow, someone else is going to read my work. And so that actually motivates them a little bit more to work outside of class. And here would be the final objective, is to go global with it and share the content that they're producing globally online. But obviously most platforms nowadays are very well protected. So if it's only going to be shared within a classroom, that's not a problem. But those are important things to keep in mind. Moving on. As I said before, the teacher is not it's not a teacher, it's more of a coach in the digital age or the digital environment. You have to give live support sometimes, technical support. We're all becoming very, very techy. And group sessions, if you have group sessions, like you said in the beginning, you guys have group sessions of large groups. And also sometimes some students need individual attention. I'm sure that you've had to either talk with parents or talk with the student individually, and sometimes accessibility is difficult and we have to contact them by phone because the video chatting is not working or something like that if they don't show up for the video lessons. So live support would be what a teacher is doing now as a coach. And this is also a very important concept, is that in the digital atmosphere, we have to keep in mind, if we have project tasks, what tasks there will be and how difficult they are, to actually measure what learning gaps could be possible. So if we have an easy task in the very beginning of a project or the task sheet, we know that most students will achieve that based on the level that they have. And then maybe the next task is a little bit more difficult. No problem, we can still track that. But if we don't anticipate the difficult part of the task or the objectives, then what students do by default is they just pass through to the last step because they find that that wrap up step is a little bit easier, and they just say, okay, I'm done, and they submit it because there's a deadline. Now this is a problem because then we have this gap, this learning gap right here. And the problem with the learning gap, if we do not plan ahead, is that it demotivates the students from actually doing it better next time. Because when we give them a negative grade, or if they find that the results is not as perfect as we would like as a teacher, because they skipped this one really difficult point, without them understanding that they have to have support there, it's going to leave them with that like negativeness that they don't want to participate next time, or like doesn't motivate them for the next challenge that you guys do with them. Clear? Questions so far? Okay, moving on. Obviously, feedback is crucial. You need to have a very good system for feedback. I'm not sure how you guys are assessing your students or how you're giving feedback, if it's during the live lessons or if you're doing it separately, but we need to have a structure for that. There has to be a structure for critical feedback. And so, for example, if we give them a project, they get the project tasks, they work on the project, they finish it, they submit it to us by the due date. Okay, it goes in to the teacher gets it, but the teacher also has to give the feedback back to the student within a reasonable time. I know that teachers are very, very busy right now, but it's very important that we all know when I turn it in, how long I have to wait to get the feedback.
Yes.
And so I know from experience that every single time I do a test in a university or in a school or wherever I'm at, the students the day after or on Monday, they're asking for the results. They're like, and the grades? And the grade, they don't even say hi, they say, and the grades, profe?
They want to have it as up.
Yeah, exactly. It's like we don't have a life as teachers. So they just get for granted.
Okay.
And so moving forward from there, keeping the idea of a structure, but in this format nowadays, we have to be flexible. I mean, we've had to change our whole form of teaching. And so our form of turning assignments and receiving assignments also has to change. We can't give them complete freedom. That's why I say we need to have structure first, but we do need to have consideration for possible challenges that might happen in the families, or maybe the internet doesn't work for them or something like that. And a lot of the times in the regular classrooms, we always say that, my dog ate my homework and I didn't do it or something. And that was always like, we kind of don't trust our students. But I think in this format, we need to trust them more than ever and just say, okay, if they couldn't do it, if they couldn't submit the thing the day before, but they submitted afterwards, we have to be able to accept those differences. Because if you don't accept them, and if they were lying, maybe they were lying. But if it's a repetitive thing, we'll notice. But if it's just a one-time thing, I think we need to be flexible in that area. And just the same as the teachers or the students have to be flexible and the parents have to be flexible with the teachers. Because if we say, okay, we're gonna give you feedback in a week, then maybe something came up for the teacher also, because we're all human. It's not just, we're not robots. So it's very important to have the flexibility on the table with all of the people that are involved, like the parents, the students, and the teachers, so that everyone knows what we can do and what we can't do. Okay, now we're into fun stuff. Any questions about the theory of projects in the digital format? No? You guys are all on mute.
Well,
okay.
I want to ask you something,
Daniel.
Casey. Listen, I gave the students a task to make a digital poster. Okay.
Okay.
So during this task, there are some students that we were talking about sports. Okay. But some of these students from 10th grade, they are gamers, and they told me, "Hey, teacher, but listen, not every one of us had these physical abilities,
football,
right?
Yeah.
So yeah, like swimming or being a basketball player, you know." And they told me, "Listen, but teacher, could we complete this task but doing another thing? Then I asked them, what thing? And they told me, esports exists too, right? And I couldn't tell them that I couldn't forbid it. So I told them, okay, show me what are you going to do instead of this digital poster. Okay. And these students, they recorded a video playing themselves and showing all of us how to play that specific game. I can't recall the name. They were very weird, but it was like a variety of tasks, like you said, if I'm not wrong, right? Is that good or I made a mistake with that?
No, I think it's great. I think it's great because there's two things that you're touching on there. Because first, you're taking and making it flexible. Because like they said, like the students had their own opinion that sports is not just regular sports now, it's digital sports also. Yeah. And so that's great, that's innovative. And the thing that is really important is that you're able to make it so it brings the topic or the project that you made for them to life, because it's something that's close to them. So it makes it real. And so like I said before, you have to keep it real. If it's not real, they're not going to be motivated to do it. And obviously, depending on the age group or their focus, you have to know your students. If you don't know your students, then you're not going to be able to create the project that's going to motivate them. So it's very important to be flexible in that area, and I think that's a great example. Excellent.
Thank you. Thank you. I was a little bit worried.
No, great. Perfect. All right, now I'm going to show you guys some tools. Hopefully, you guys can tell me first what tools you're using. And so I have this little quick QR code just like before. If you can do it, I want you to write whichever platform or digital software you've used. You can write as many as you can type in 2 minutes. Those were yours, and this is what I got when we did the webinar in July. They said Facebook, Teams, Patty, Kahoot, Classroom, Hangouts, Wall, Blackboard, Seesaw. Have you used Seesaw? Seesaw's for like the young learners. It's very good. I totally recommend it. Moodle is also really, really good. Quizzes you already mentioned. Canva is a great one. Padlet, I don't know if you've used that before, but I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. Okay, we're going to continue. And I'm going to show you some. So have you seen results? Or are you reinventing the wheel? Sometimes we feel like that.
Yeah.
So here's a website I don't know if any of you know. It's called Workbench. Let's say that one day you don't know what you want to do for a lesson, or you need help with a lesson plan. Maybe you have a topic, but you don't know what lesson kind of format you would want to do. Here, you can look up subjects, you can look up the grade level, you can look up the standards, and there are pre-made lessons complete with all the resources you need for it, based on whatever you're looking for. And this is, you can also, as a teacher, create your own lessons and upload them here and share with other people. It's like a teacher's open source sharing for lessons, lesson plan.
Workbench. But I'm going to buy that.
Workbench is an amazing platform.
Thank you.
No, it's a helpful platform. Now, what I'm going to do first, before I go into a lot of the other platforms, is I'm just going to talk about each individual segment. So pre-primary projects, obviously they're more hands-on. I have 2 little boys. I have a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old, and they love doing projects. And so let's just take, for example, any course book out there. And this is an example from Ferris Wheel or Mimi's Wheel. It's a new series from Macmillan. And they actually do a lot of projects inside of it. Most course books for young learners have hands-on projects. Now let's take this a little bit farther. Obviously, digital assets that go with platforms are good too. So if we take this activity where it says that they want them to finger paint the classroom objects. Now in a regular classroom, this would be fine because the teacher's there, the tools and this stuff is there, they have their aprons. But in this new system where the student's virtual in their house, and maybe this could be a homework assignment, but then the parents have to be available to help them with paint. I don't know how many parents will just give their kids paint and say, okay, you do this and I'll be right back. Because maybe they're gonna have paint all over the house, which is not bad, but sometimes. So what I decided to do for this webinar that I did is say, okay, let's take this project into something more concrete that the kids can play with. So let's say make your own and then select one of these objects. Make your own pencil case, make your own backpack. This is something that could take a little bit more time and it wouldn't be as messy. So what I did is this. Back. So no, not that type of backpack. So I invented this backpack like 2 days before I did the webinar. I'm a graphic designer also, so it's a little bit easier for me. So what I did is I created this backpack that can be printed or sent to the parents, printed and easily cut out. I had my 5-year-old and my 7-year-old do it themselves completely. I gave them a glue stick and a pair of scissors, and they were able to do it in about, I would say, about an hour, because they would color it first, because I did it really fast without coloring. So you take this, and if you want to, there's a QR code to go to my website, or in the end I'll share my website. It has this file that you can download as a PDF.
Beberos vuestras pociones con mesura y sabiduría.
Great.
Someone's got an audio. And so you make that, and then they can use it to put actual things in. It's not just a flat piece of paper anymore.
So cool.
And so for kids, I know my sons, when I give them something that they can take from a paper, fold it a couple times, glue it, and become something three-dimensional, they're like, what? And so this gives another added benefit to it. And this is just to show you that my kids did really do it. And I created this other worksheet to go with it so that they could actually achieve the objective of that activity in the book, but doing it themselves. They could actually color the things and put all these elements inside, and then in the end, present.
This is the backpack I made. So here I have paints. Here a eraser I have here.
And so they practice the same concept that I have in my backpack, but they're not using a physical backpack. They're using something they made. They actually played with this for a week.
A pair of scissors?
And they were putting random things in there. This is my other son doing this thing.
This is my backpack I made
drawn all
with
over
my daddy. And look what I have.
And my boys,
what do you have, Tommy? Where's that from?
Yeah, so that's one way in pre-primary, to make something more realistic for them. And if you guys have an idea, if you're pre-primary teachers, I think it's Fernanda, if you have an idea of some project or something that you'd love to see kind of like come to be a printable thing, let me know and I'll see if I can design it. And so here's something that a lot of people say, no, I don't know how to draw things. I'm not an artist. You are, okay? So no, there's an application online that's existed for a long time. I've been using it for like 10 years with some design students in the university to get them to design their own logos. So basically, AutoDraw is you go in and you start drawing random things. And then in seconds, up here in the top, things that are like what you're drawing. And then you just select it. And then it creates what you wanted. So if I don't know how to draw a bear, I try to draw a bear. And this is cool for little kids because it's like paint, but on another level. Because you can color it, you can draw it, you can make your own coloring book, basically. And so it's very useful for either parents that don't know how to draw, or teachers, or students. Another great idea in this digital format is to implement a mailbox. It's kind of the idea of bringing this alive. So instead of just being so digital all the time, these little kids need more physical hands-on things. And I know that kids are drawing and making lots of little projects for their classes in pre-primary. And the best thing here is if we take all these things, okay, that they've created, and then we put them in a mailbox. And that mailbox, what the parents do to make this work, the parents have to go and take the things that the children deposit in the mailbox that's supposed to be going to the teacher, and they take it out of there at night. And in the morning, the parents put a new paper in there, which is like the next project for the day. If this is possible, it's an amazing way to create the illusion of them sending actually their work to their teacher instead of just taking a picture of it on their phone. Obviously, that's what we're going to do anyway, but the illusion that these pictures are being sent. It's a great idea. And I also created a document on my website that you can get that's printable, a little tiny mailbox. Now, if we go into primary, there's a lot of different textbooks out there that talk about global citizenship education, like Global Stage, for example, and other textbooks on the market. And so what I found was this really cool idea. There's two really good platforms. One is called Pen Pal Schools. Pen Pal Schools is you can literally connect with schools in any country in the world, and your class and their class can communicate. And much easier nowadays with this virtual setting. So everybody's in their Zoom classroom, but you can meet with other classes from other people around the world. And if you're talking about culture or a cultural topic, this can create a much deeper understanding of different perspectives. And then there's another one here. Obviously, social emotional learning is another thing that's very, very present in the modern textbooks. And DreamDo Schools is similar to Pen Pal Schools, but this is based on projects or design thinking. I don't know if you know about design thinking, like the 5 steps of design thinking. Usually it was made for adults to innovate, but now DreamDo Schools is making this accessible for primary students and for other kids. And you can create projects and link your projects to projects from other schools around the world. Very cool. And I'm going to show you just a little bit of an example of the DreamDo methodology. So DreamDo methodology comes with all these free materials on their website. You can download them, print them. It's very, very engaging. So you get a dream board, which is a group project or individual project. And what they do is they write in this first box, obviously their group name or their name, and then they write their dream. Or if they're in preschool or primary, if they don't know how to write yet, they can draw a picture. I've had my little son, Tommy, when he was like 4, okay, draw me a picture of what you want to be when you're bigger. And he draws this crazy design. But this is something that we don't always have to write. So it can be something you draw and then they interpret it to you. And so they have this dream, and then the next step is to do. What do you have to do to achieve that dream? Okay. Moving down on the same sheet, the last part is did. So once you're finished with the project, you have this reflection stage. The reflection stage is did. So what did I do to finish this project? And the older students, this is a very, very good format for working in classrooms. And so this other sheet that's next to it on the left, the do board, is where they collect their information. So for example, when they're reflecting, they say, okay, for dream, what do I have to do, or what part of my dream is easy? What part of my dream is hard? What do I have to do that is easy? What do I have to do that's hard? And then what did I do that was easy, and what did I do that was hard? Do you understand so far? Besides that, this platform, DreamDo Schools, is free, and you can download the other elements, which are the do cards, which it prods them. Instead of the teacher always having to tell you what to do in the lessons, this they can do offline. You give them the set of cards, and they can read it and answer. Okay, so you say, yeah, work on this card this week, or work on the next card next week. So what tools do you need to make the project or dream happen? What facilities do you need? And there's 20 different do cards that you can use. So it's a lot more flexible for the students to be able to work from home. Questions so far?
No.
How are we doing with time? Good? Okay. Here's an activity for you. I don't know if you know Ed Puzzle. No?
Yes.
You do? Okay, great.
Yeah.
It's a great tool for you to take the videos, and you can take the videos and cut them into pieces. You can mute them. You can put on your own like audio for the videos, and you can add questions and make it more interactive.
Yes.
If you wanted to see the one that I created, you can click there. But it's just something simple. So we're gonna move on to the next one. This one, I don't know if you know this one, Spiral.
No.
This is amazing, completely amazing. Spiral is a free platform I discovered a week ago. This is like, I didn't even have this in my original presentation. I made that just
Spiral.
So if I go into Spiral, Spiral has the accessibility for 5 different applications inside of Spiral. And this makes your class, your virtual class, so much more engaging. And you get to have the different assessment points that are related to every single thing you do in the online classroom. The exit ticket for the class, everything. So here you have 5 different applications. You have the Quickfire Lite, which is a verbal Q&A. So for example, if I launched a Q&A Quick Lite, I can just do it like this. Okay, yeah, go, amazing, great. And once you sign up, it's free. So what happens here is I say a question once it's loaded. Okay, I'm waiting for students. So what you have to do to be a student here is you have to type, like Kahoot, you have to type gospiral.ac, and then you're gonna enter this code. And once I have students in here, like you, I can ask you a question. All right. We're missing Robert. I don't know if Robert's able to do it.
Do I enter, just click on start?
Yeah, just start. Yeah, start.
Ah, join activity, sorry.
Join activity, and then it should, did you enter your name? Once
Yeah.
you join, okay, there you go. Is that everyone? We're missing.
I don't know. Mary, no, it's okay.
Okay. But what's cool about this is once you get everyone in here, you see the go button right here. That's what I'm going to do is I'm going to push go. I'm going to ask a verbal question to my students, and then they're going to have the opportunity to respond to that question. Okay. So
okay.
So I ask you, for example, name one thing that you've learned today. And I push go. And now we're going to see the percentage at the bottom. We're going to see how they answer, how many people have answered. And then I can give them immediate feedback on if they did it correctly or wrong. And I can also give them a short comment or many, many things. It keeps track of everything the students do online while you're working. And you can actually use this to present your PowerPoints and everything else. With software. So it's a one-stop shop for online lessons, making it way more engaging, and you get the feedback immediately. And the students do too. And I have the answers hidden at the moment, so I can't see them, so that students don't feel bad that their answer was shown on the board. I can reveal the answers. I can reveal the answers, but no one knows who said this. But if I click over here, then I'm going to know exactly who said it.
Okay.
So in most classes, I would keep the names hidden, so nobody has that that feeling that no, my answer's stupid.
Cool.
Okay.
It's much better this way. Okay. So basically that's how that works. And so what I can do as a teacher, if you see here, I have this option of the button correct or improve. So let's say that this answer doesn't really go with what I was talking about. And I say, okay, yeah, you need to improve. So on my screen right now, you have been asked to improve your answer. So I can go in and edit my answer and change it.
Okay.
And see if I can get it correct. So feedback is critical. There's an answer. So right here, I'm seeing that I'm already grading students. We'll see how many students got it correct. So new digital tools. All right, you need to improve, just as an example. Yeah, and we can also show the names. And we can see who's got it and who doesn't. And then we can do random. And so I can ask, once I've done the first question, I can ask another question. And you can keep going, and you can create a discussion with this Quickfire application that's inside of.
Wow, this is super cool.
No, I thought it was amazing. When I found it, I was like, wow, this is like what every teacher needs. And look at this last button over here, exit ticket. Do you know what an exit ticket is? It's like that, like to find out to see if they actually learned something in the class. So
yeah, they can give an example of something.
I push exit ticket, and then the students give me feedback. Okay, so am I confident? Do I need practice? Is it difficult? And the teacher automatically has the idea of how many students out of her class or their class understand the content and how many need help. And we can understand, the teacher will be able to see exactly which student it is, but not the whole class.
Good.
So resume session. So I can go back to exit ticket if I want to and wait for everybody to put their feedback in, but it's super powerful. This is just the direct question asking one. Now, if we go back to the applications, if I go to finish the quickfire, okay, I finished quickfire. Now I'm going to go back to Spiral over here, and I can see right here's my report from the class. You can see questions asked, responses received, and you can see all the answers, and this is all registered and it stays there for you. And you can see which student has the star that got it correct. And then we move over here, and you have quickfire multi-quiz. This one is the same idea, but it's you create your own little quiz, and then they answer the quiz either during the session or something, or you send it to them as a link, as homework, and then you get the feedback automatically. Discussion is similar. You have you present something, and then they create a live discussion with feedback. Teaming up, if you want to do projects with your students, you can actually put them in teams, and then they can work on multiple projects, and you can keep those same teams for other projects. And if the student was not added to a project, they can come in and say, okay, I want to join this group, and they can join that group. It's not a problem. And clips, this right over here, the video QA, is the same as what the Ed puzzle does. It does the exact same thing. So everything in one place. And I totally recommend you guys use this because it's going to make your classroom a lot more interactive. And it's going to give you the availability of assessments inside of your classroom. So you're going to actually have that feedback and know who's understanding and who's not. Okay, I know Kahoot and Quizzes and all of those platforms are great, but this one I think is way better for the idea of getting all the feedback that you want to get at the moment that you're doing it. So it saves you time. Okay, so yeah, I'm going to go back to the presentation. So now you know what Spiral is, and I think that you guys should totally investigate it and play with it because it is useful. And it's free for teachers. So moving forward, here are just a few other applications I mentioned, or I'd like to mention. I kind of separate them into different categories. Organization, you have Stormboard. Don't worry, you don't need to write them all down because I can send you the link to the website, our website that has all of these with their links and everything at the end of the presentation. So Stormboard is also good for project collaboration with students. Pinup is another board that you can actually put like little sticky notes and work together collaboratively. Explain Everything is also a very good one. Trello, I'll show you really quick. Trello, I use Trello for keeping track of everything I do for all my clients' schools. So all the schools that I work with in Chile, hold on, let me reload it, there we go. All the schools that I work with in Chile are here. And so basically I lay out everything, contacts. So if I go to Amazing Grace, I have here the school, I have the workshop with the time. And so for me, this is how I organize my day, my week, my month, everything. I can set dates, labels, I can filter the schools, I can filter everything. And it's a very useful platform.
Sorry, is that an online platform or is it an app?
No, it's the online platform that you can use online, or you can use it as an app in your phone, and it's all connected always. So if you have a lot of tasks that you're doing or a lot of classrooms, for example, when I did, when I was working in the university, I'll show you boards right here. I had to manage a goodbye event with my university students. So I got all of the different sections or the different classrooms or classes into this one Trello, and I put them into different sections where they had to work together and plan an event. And they're able to completely, the students work together inside of here, and I can see what they're doing. And so it's a very functional space for collaboration. And it's free and it works on every device. It doesn't have to be just for clients, it can be for students or classrooms or projects. And so back to here. So those are the first category, organization or collaboration. Investigation, I said, dream do schools. You can see what other schools have done all around the world in different levels, like pre-primary, primary, and secondary. Glogster is basically, it's a research tool where you can go and see what people have created to put together videos, audios, text. It's like a wall, a virtual wall that has lots of information about stuff, even three-dimensional or augmented reality in some cases. Pen Pal Schools I mentioned before. If you're designing anything for the production category, Canva, if you're not a graphic designer, you don't have to be. And if you're your students making posters or anything, flyers, advertisements, Canva is the one-stop shop for that. You have to use Canva. It's so easy, it's free, and you can send out PDFs from the files. You can do a lot of things there. And they have their own content. And Satori, also a very, very powerful platform for doing timelines. So let's say if you're studying the history of something, you can make a timeline, and the timeline, which is about this, you can put students into groups. They work on the one timeline, and the timeline, they can create questions in the timeline. So as you're cycling down the timeline, you see like different questions that come up. And then as a teacher, you can answer the questions to see if you're understanding what they actually told you or not. Or even you can have one group look and review the other group's Satori, and you'll have the questions involved in that they already created. And videos and other things that you can add. So very good. Now, if you're thinking about flipping the classroom, Padlet's also very, very good, or Flipgrid, because those you can start a topic or a thread, and students can all add information or photos or responses by video or audio or text to the topic. And Padlet and Flipgrid are totally recommended. Another one I'd like to tell you about is in the reflection category, VT, which is VoiceThread. VoiceThread is a platform where you can start a topic, and then you can have that topic be seen, and people can comment on the topic. So it makes it a lot more interesting to hear the feedback that people give. It's a nice way to have like this voice. It's kind of like a voice blog in a way. It's very interesting. You have to check it out. I have the link on the website, and I'll show it to you later. No, I can't see anything with that little box. Okay, and Nearpod is also a new technology that's very interesting for collaboration that you should check out for investigating. So far, so good. How are we with time? As I mentioned before, Michael Fullen is the director of deep learning, and he's from Canada. And he mentioned at the beginning of the pandemic, that their technology is very, very important, and it has to be supporting the twin pillars of well-being and learning. So if our students are not emotionally stable or emotionally structured in their houses, if they're in a stressful environment, if they're having problems, obviously they're not going to be able to learn. And the same with teachers. I mean, if we're not in a comfortable environment, we're not going to be able to teach in an effective way. So he mentions that the importance of those two things mixed with technology makes it a lot more easy for us to collaborate and share more information in an effective way. So here is where I'm going to show you looking forward and moving forward with taking the ideas of restructuring and changing education. Deep learning is the next step. And I'm going to show you what I mean by what's the difference between deep learning and standard education. Okay, traditional education is on the left, deep learning on the right. And so here are the points that Michael discusses. Obviously, traditional education or learning is teacher-driven. The teacher transfers all the information to the students. They direct the class, they lead all of the activities and everything that goes in that line. Now, deep learning is student-led, teacher-framed. Teacher-framed means that what I said at the beginning was that we need a structured outline of where we want to go with the students. So if the students know where we need to go, they can also be the leader. They don't always have to be the pilot or the co-pilot. So in this format of deep learning, now with digital technology, students can investigate more on their own than ever before. So as long as they have an outline of where they need to go and what they need to achieve, they can actually do a lot more than what we expect. Obviously, in the traditional learning, the teacher is the transmitter of the knowledge, and they were the only source of knowledge in the beginning, but now it's a little bit different. Here we connect, obviously, the students to real world, like making it real, authentic problem solving, as I mentioned before. DreamDo and Pen Pal schools work with that format. They actually give you real world situations, and maybe even your students from here in Chile could collaborate with another students, other school, to help achieve something that in their country is something that you already have here. And maybe you can give them feedback. And that's why it's really important to have real world authentic situations, because it makes it more motivating for them to do the projects. Compliance oriented, obviously, I tell you to do something, you do it. In traditional education, over here in deep learning, we build new relationships between and among learners, teachers, and families. As I mentioned before, that we need to connect with the families, because nowadays with this virtual environment, we have the opportunity to not only see them in their homes, but also see their families, their pets, everything. So we need to build more connections with our students to have the confidence to get them to go deeper into their education and produce new things that they're able to do. Student is the receiver of knowledge in the traditional sense. They just sit there and absorb the information that is told to them by the teacher or the books that they receive. Okay, we're right here. Okay, the student is an inquirer and builds his own knowledge. As I mentioned before, that they need to be interested in the topic to actually go and investigate it further. And learning is impersonal. Sometimes in traditional education, learning can be impersonal because, as I think Daniel said, that he wasn't sure if he should have changed the activity for certain students or not, because in traditional education, they would have said, no, this is what we want you to do, and you have to stay in these limits. But because the students were interested in the topic of a different area of that topic, it's very good for us to make it more flexible. And it's more meaningful in the end. So learning connects meaningfulness to the students, so they're more interested and it gives them a voice. So if they don't like football, maybe they like online gaming, and that gives them the voice to speak about it if they're interested in the topic. Students as an agency isn't clear. This means that the students kind of don't really realize what's the good of education in traditional education, because they sit there and they listen to the teachers and they read the books, but they don't see their purpose. And I think that in this new format of deep learning, they have this new desire to connect with other people, other peers, virtually, or even like directly in the regular sense. But this doesn't mean that deep learning is only for internet or digital format. Once we go back into the presential classes, we can take the same information and apply it to our regular classes. Like I was saying in the beginning when we first started talking, that just because we're learning these tools now doesn't mean we're going to forget them when we go back to the regular class. And I hope you don't. Technology should be used for transmission and consumption. So basically they're just using it for sending and receiving things. But here we need to use it for much more. It's a communicator, it's an amplifier. We've seen, I mean, the social movements around the world is a big thing that technology has amplified, because before that there wasn't as loud a voice or as strong as voice for certain areas or for certain people. And that's basically the end. And these are the different platforms I mentioned. Another one I didn't mention here in the other part was SchoolNet. Workbench and SchoolNet are both the similar kind of platforms where you can look for lesson plans based on topics or levels or areas. They're very, very good. Pixton EDU is, as I said before and I showed you in the beginning, it's like making a comic. And then there's Scratch for doing basic programming and learning how to program, which most young kids nowadays that are like digital natives, they find Scratch very cool because they can create their own video games. by either copy and pasting a structure that's already created, and then they put their own characters into it, or fully developing it themselves. Animaker is also another way for teachers to create animated presentations, like characters, not just a comic. It's like a fully animated program. And the other one, if you're in little kids, like primary and pre-primary, Tiny Bop Schools, that is an amazing application. I downloaded it's a 10 application pack for like 16,000 pesos for my boys. And it's an interactive digital way to learn a lot of this stuff that's taught in science and different subjects like that, to understand how the body works. You can you can see the skeleton, you can put it back together, you can use it in Spanish, English. You can go to the moon, you can go to different planets and see if water freezes on that planet. It's like a lot more hands-on experience and investigating themselves than someone telling them this is what it is, this is what it's not. So they discover by doing. But that platform is got a 14-day free trial, which I took advantage of it because they have a lot of lesson plans that go with it if you do the 14-day free trial. But downloading the applications is definitely a great investment, and they're not expensive for a teacher to present for the students virtually. Here are just a couple of like assessment platforms that I didn't mention at the beginning, but Kahoot, Quizzes, Flexi Quiz, because I had a couple of schools of my clients that were asking how or where we recommended they go to do assessments. And these are the ones that I found after researching for 2 days that were the best and the open source or the cheapest. And so another option, I know Quizzes and Kahoot but Quiz Wizard is very interesting. If you like board games, and if your students are kind of interested in that kind of thing, Quiz Wizard is basically making a review board game for your students to play online. And that's very, very fun for them to do. Any questions? Now it's questions. This is my email if you need it, and my website where I have those principles that I upload, because I about 2.5 years ago created a company called English Arts where I taught English through arts, and I was invited by Fundación Oportunidad to La Serena to do a talk for the foundation, the fourth expanding opportunities. And so that's where I have a lot of information. And then the Grupo Inglesa support, Weebly.com, is the actual website where all these links are. And let me just post in the chat box. Right here are all the platforms I mentioned, except for Spiral, and which I'll add later today. So these are the digital collaboration platforms. Boomwriter is by far the best writing platform for practicing process writing. So you can use you set okay, what's the first part of a letter? What's the second part, the third part? It's in stages. It's amazing for writing. These are all 3 writing programs. One for creating stories. I didn't mention these. There's Canva, there's Blogster. They're all here.
That's great.
Howtoon I didn't mention either, and that's another animation platform for making interactive presentations. AutoDraw, Scratch, Padlet, Workbench, Skullnet. FunBrain is also very, very good for pre-K to 8th grade. There's VoiceThread, Stormboard, Pinup, all of the ones, and even Poll Everywhere. The little polls I did during the presentation were done with this application, Poll Everywhere. And you can insert them into your PowerPoints. And so it's live information. And that's how I was able to do a poll of my class or of you guys at the moment that you're doing it. You can do quizzes in there, you could do a poll, you can also do the word walls. It's a very, very cool program. And those are all the platforms there for that. If I go back to the assessments, they're over here. Assessment platforms. And they're the ones that I mentioned right here. Quiz Wizard, and then Pearlface. All of these are here with the explanation of how much it costs, what's the possibility there. Any questions? When I first started with this, Macmillan kind of, they came to me and they asked me if I could do a webinar. And I said, yeah, sure. And I asked them what I should do it about. And then they said, no, maybe the digital tools. So I started investigating. I investigated for a couple weeks. And so I was able to, because I have more time than teachers do, to kind of collaborate on all of these platforms and find out what was the best for what thing. And so I have no problem sharing with other teachers because I think it's necessary because you don't have as much time as I do. Not to say that I don't do anything, but I'm just not teaching on a regular basis like you are.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, I thank you for your time. I think that it just comes down to time. I mean, most of us don't have enough time to investigate enough to go and start doing another thing when we're trying to achieve the goals that we have in our class. So I think that if anybody can help you, that's the best thing. It's sharing. It's more than that.